In this video, we discuss how to author a policy in PolicyTech. After a brief definition of roles, we will start with making a new version of an existing document and then show how to create a new policy from scratch. We will examine the standard template sections and their purposes. We will take a moment to address PolicyTech's browser-based Word module. Finally, we will talk about the policy status, which includes the approval process to get the document from draft to published and in front of your audience. The status is also how we archive obsolete documents. Before we begin, I'll clarify the distinction between our two PolicyTech videos. The previous training video is titled Part 1, End User Navigation. That video is intended for all users because it addresses how to navigate and find published policies. That video is a good prerequisite to this video. It will also be helpful for you to be familiar with existing policies before you start writing one. This training video is Part 2, Authoring Policies in PolicyTech. This video is intended for department managers, since each manager is responsible for his or her department's policies. Your policies are a critical tool for employee training and quality. As a department manager, it's your job to ensure your department's written policies are inclusive of all critical department functions, that you keep your current policies updated, and that you archive outdated policies. So let's get started. Roles. Each department manager needs to author his or her department's policies and procedures, meaning that manager is responsible for the content. Ideally, you as the department manager should be set up as the document owner, which allows you to create new versions of your documents. You can have other people help you by adding them as writers. However, a person who is only added as a writer on a policy cannot make a new version. That can be a problem because a writer needing to create a new version would have to reach out to you as the document owner and have you make the new draft version. That could slow down the updating process, so please decide carefully who will own your documents in your department versus who is helping in the writer role. One option to get around this problem, where writers cannot create new versions, is you can have your administrator set someone up as your proxy. That means you, as the department manager, can continue to own all documents, but the proxy is allowed to create new versions or take action on your behalf. If you feel like your PolicyTech settings aren't right, or you need someone to be your proxy, talk to the Chief Operating Officer or the Human Resources Manager so they can make those changes for you. Making a new version of an existing policy. Versioning is a great feature of PolicyTech because it allows you to keep the existing properties of a document and forces the old version to be archived when the new version is published. Navigate to brecslc.policytech.com and open your starting document. In this example, we're making a new version of an existing document. You may have the option to edit in current state for minor formatting changes, but it's a better practice to create a new version for major changes so that we have a record of what was changed from one version to the next. Click on Create New Version. You'll get a pop-up alerting you that a new version will be created in draft status. Click Yes to create the new version. During this editing process, PolicyTech will change the document from a read-only PDF to an editable document in this tab. You may be prompted to install the Word module to get to this point. See more about the Word module in section 4. Once you're in edit mode, make your changes, then click on Submit for approval. You'll get a pop-up asking you to summarize the changes between the previous version and this version. Go ahead and add your notes and click Submit. The new document will be sent for approval, and once approved, will become a PDF document again. If you're following along now with your own policy update, skip to part 5 of this video so that you can get your draft approved. Creating a new policy. Let's go over how to create a new policy from scratch. On the left navigation menu, under Documents, click on the plus New button. Most documents that you create are going to be in Word, so for our example, we'll pick that. That will take us to a Properties wizard where we can walk through the Setup tabs. Here on Step 1, Settings, be sure to name the document using our naming convention, which is described in policy number 312. That policy has us begin with the department name. Make sure the naming convention is followed. This helps us keep track of the policies. For this demonstration, we'll create a test document. Since you are authoring this document, choose your name as the owner. As I mentioned in a prior segment, the document owner will have privileges to create new versions once this document is approved. If you're helping your manager enter his or her policies, you'll need to know if you should put your manager as the document owner. Under this template option, the vast majority of documents you create will be the SOP template or a standard operating procedure template. We created that SOP template plus the job description template because those two templates cover the majority of our documents. Occasionally, you might need to upload a reference document like a servicing contract that's already in a PDF format. In that case, simply upload the PDF document. In our example, we're going to be using the Word SOP template. I'm not going to provide an alternate publication date, which means the publication date will be the same as the approved date, and I do not have a planned end date. Select Save. Before I go on to the next step, I love to go up here to this Advanced Settings area. It's not a really obvious button, so it sometimes gets overlooked, but it's very useful because it will help your future readers find the documents more quickly. That's because we can enter keywords here. Keywords will help people find your policy if they use different phrases or common misspellings you can enter here. While I'm in here, I also like to verify that the review interval is set to no review date because this document is not required to be reviewed regularly. And I can set a proxy author if one has been assigned to this document owner. I'll click Save and Next Step to move to Step 2. Step 2 is all about who can see the document. We only have one site, so you can skip the sites. Select Departments. Just leave it at all users unless it's a restricted document. A restricted document is where only specific individuals that are assigned to that department will see that. For example, by selecting Restricted HR Management, other users will not be able to see this policy. Click OK, then save and go to the next step. Step 3 is where you can add additional writers. If you have additional writers, go ahead and add them here. This allows a coworker to collaborate with you in the draft phase. If you cannot find the people you want to add in these steps 3, 4, 5, and 6, please check with the Chief Operating Officer or Human Resources Manager. We might just need to update your colleagues' settings so that you can see them here and add them as a writer. Go to the next step. Step 4 is for reviewers. This is where you set the person who needs to review your policy. If you wanted a mentor to review your policy before it's sent for approval, you would select that person here. Both steps 3 and 4 are optional. You do not need to add additional writers or reviewers if you're not collaborating with others on these steps in your document. So if you have no one to add, just leave them blank and proceed to step 5. Step 5 is where you can select the person who will be approving and publishing your policy. The available approvers are listed here. Select the appropriate person for your department. Click Save and Next Step. Step 6 is for assignees. By default, all policies are set to all users. This step indicates who is required to read the document. Continue to Next Step. Step 7 is the final step in setting up the properties of the document, and it's assigning the appropriate security level. Select all users if the document should be seen by all users, or click on the drop-down box. Select Restricted High, then select Departments, and click the appropriate departments who can see the document. In our example, I've selected Restricted HR Management. You should have the same settings on steps 2 and 7. Click Save and Edit Document in the lower right-hand corner. That will take you to the actual document here, and you'll be ready to add your content. Template sections. Let's review each section of the template and discuss its purpose. Policy. This needs to be clear and state the company's policy. What must the employee do to be compliant? It needs to be clear and not have ambiguity or lack clarity. Purpose. State the purpose of the policy. Why is it important to follow this policy? Definitions. Write the policy as if the reader is an employee that's unfamiliar with the current processes or terms. The definitions can help provide clarity. If an industry's terms use acronyms and might be confusing to a reader, spell out the full length of the acronym. For example, DOL means Department of Labor. This SOP applies to the following parties. List who are responsible to follow this policy. Examples could be all employees, accounting department, HR manager. Procedure. This is the nuts and bolts of the document. How is the process to be followed? What are the key steps? Remember, write the procedure as if an employee is not familiar with the process. Be clear and organized in your thoughts. In the Templates and Forms section, you can reference any templates or forms to help strengthen the document. If you don't have any, simply type none. The last section is the reference and agency guidance. Include any attached documents or hyperlinks if the reader is expected to reference supporting material. Attachments and hyperlinks allow you to make references without having to restate or duplicate here what's already in your reference material. In this example, I'll be adding 3 links to other documents. You can attach items here as attachments instead of links, and you can also just import a new document if you were completely overwriting the existing document. One notable problem users encounter when using this policy template is that you can't use the tab button to create an indent because you're working here in a table. For example, if I wanted to indent here, I would have to use this indentation icon up on the ribbon, because if I hit tab, it creates a new cell in the table. If that happens, just press Control-Z on your keyboard to undo that. Let's go ahead and click on More, and then Submit for approval. Word module. The Word module is a browser extension, and it needs to be installed in Chrome in order to create or edit policies. It's a tool that allows you to update the document right here in PolicyTech instead of having to download the document, make changes, and re-upload it. Please install the Word module if you're prompted to do so. It's easy to install, and it will show up here under your browser extensions. You may be required to relaunch your browser after installation for the changes to take effect. If you have any problems with the Word module after following the on-screen prompts, call Inbound for further help. Policy status. As of the date this tutorial was made, internal notifications are turned off. That means this system will not alert a writer, a reviewer, or an approver that they have a task to complete on your document. You will need to inform that individual that they have a task to do. Let the approver know where they can find the document, whether it's in draft or approval, and which department. The approver can open the document to view it, and from the More option at the top, can send it back to draft, can revise the document, or can set it as approved. If the approver is okay with the document, it's easy for the approver to just simply select Set as Approved and click OK. Congratulations! Your policy is now published and is able to be viewed by the appropriate readers. If this policy is a new version of a previously published document, the older version will be automatically archived. However, if you want to archive a document without making a new version, simply click on the More tab and select Archive. You will need to add a note regarding why it's being archived. It's vital to your department that you replace or remove outdated policies when needed so that the data in PolicyTech is current. After watching this video, you should have a better understanding of who to set up as your document owner, how proxies work, and that writers cannot create new versions unless they're proxies for the document owner. You should be more skilled at updating an existing policy by making a new version and creating a new policy from start to finish. You should understand what statuses are and how to move a policy to the published or archived status to keep your department's policies current. We also reviewed that policies are the main training tool for all employees and need to be managed by all department managers. We emphasized that managers need to ensure their department policies are clear and accurate. Existing policies and procedures that support this video are Policy number 312, Introduction to SOPs in PolicyTech, and Policy number 2830, How to Utilize PolicyTech, which is a PowerPoint presentation.